you like this chalice? Because we are a Unitarian Universalist, we are the fellowship of the open mind, the loving heart, and the helping hands. Together we help bring peace and justice into the world.
A long time ago, in a faraway land, or just yesterday and around the corner, there was a mountain with a little village at the bottom of it. This mountain was special because it had an answer carved into the side. No one knew where this answer came from, but it said, "The answer is no." The villagers loved this mountain because whenever they had a difficult question, they could come out and ask the question to the mountain, and it would reply. One night, Ma Custis couldn't decide what to make for dinner, as sometimes happens. So she came out and said, "Mountain, should I make liver for dinner?" The answer is no. Well, good, she thought, because no one liked eating liver. Should I make steak and potatoes? The answer is no. How about chicken? The answer is no. How about mushroom soup? The answer is no. How about popcorn or beans or tacos or chips and fish? The answer is no. Well, Ma Custis asked questions all night until the sun went down and came back up again. And the answer was always no. And so she decided that was no good, and she went home. And they didn't eat that night. Her family didn't eat the next night either because she couldn't decide until she finally got frustrated and said, "You know what? I'll just make liver. It was the first thing I thought of." And no one was really happy. But she decided that Answer Mountain wasn't doing its job, and so she called a town meeting and said, "We need to do something about Answer Mountain." And the town decided that's quite right. And they got the stonemason involved and said, "Stonemason, do you think you'd be able to change the answer on Answer Mountain?" And the stonemason said, "I think I could." And so the next day he went up with his chisel and he changed the answer. The answer is yes. And so Ma Custis that night went out and said, "Mountain, do you think I should make liver for dinner?" The answer is yes. "Really? Even though everyone will hate it? They already hated it. I think they'll leave my house if I make dinner again." The answer is yes. "But I promised never to make liver again. Do you think I should break my promise?" The answer is yes. And so Ma Custis made liver again for dinner. Well, no one was happy with that. The grumbles from the Custis household got so loud that they went back to the town meeting and decided that this just wouldn't do. That the answer is yes isn't going to be sufficient. Because whenever you have a question, there's multiple answers. So they decided this is what they were going to say. The answer is sometimes yes, sometimes no, sometimes wait and see, and sometimes I don't know. And they said to the mason, "Can you make that?" And the mason said, "I can. It might take me a while." And they said, "That's okay." So the mason would go up and down the mountain every day and chip away. But this took a long time. And every time they looked up at the mountain for the answers to their questions, they saw the answer is under construction. They saw this for so long that they decided they were going to ask each other the questions instead. And they got all manners of answer. They got all manners of answer, sometimes many answers to the same question. And so after a while, the stonemason decided to stop working on the answer. And to this day, whenever the villagers has questions, if they want to ask Answer Mountain, the answer is still under construction. But they find answers and meaning in life, in and among themselves, because there's no certain thing like carved in stone.
I invite you to join me in our opening song, When I Am Frightened. When I am frightened, will you reassure me? When I'm uncertain, will you hold my hand? Will you be strong for me, sing for me quietly? Will you share some of your stories with me? If you will show me compassion, then I may learn to care as you do. Then I may learn to care. When I am angry, will you still embrace me? When I am thoughtless, will you understand? Will you believe in me, stand by me willingly? Will you share some of your questions with me? If you will show me compassion, then I may learn to give as you do. Then I may learn to give. When I am troubled, will you listen to me? When I am lonely, will you be my friend? Will you be there for me, comfort me tenderly? Will you share some of your feelings with me? If you will show me commitment, then I may learn to love as you do. Then I may learn to love.
It's the time in our service where we honor the milestones that have happened in our community. And today we have 2 memorial candles to share. So important because our families cannot gather for a full memorial service or funeral service at this time. 2 of our members have lost their parents in the last couple of days. Noelle Jensen lost her father, Andre, on Thursday night. Andre was the beloved husband of Birte, father to Noelle and Christian, and grandfather to our Soren. Andre's career began as an electrical engineer at Western Electric. He transitioned through Bell Labs and finally AT&T. He will be remembered by those who loved him for his commitment to community service and to our earth. In spite of declining health, he faithfully volunteered at the recycling center of Morris Plains. He also enjoyed hiking and was fond of butterflies. Noelle has beautiful memories of the 2 of them listening to music together. He loved Dave Brubeck, and one of his favorites was Take 5. Most importantly, he was a present father and an adoring grandfather. Noelle and Soren lived with him, so his absence is keenly felt. Let us keep the whole Jensen family in our prayers, and may Andre, may Andy's light and the legacy of his love be always strong. Harry Harris lost his mother, Pat Harris, yesterday morning. Pat was a wonderful mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother. Pat was extremely active as a religious leader, mother, and volunteer. Harry shares that she was known and loved by many in Elmwood Park. She served as class mother, Cub Scout den leader, St. Leo's Christian Services director, and Eucharistic minister. Pat was about as close to a saint as it gets. Mrs. Choma, a family friend, shared a story from decades ago when her children were young. The family was discussing who was the holiest person that they knew, and they decided that priests were not to be included. Mrs. Choma said, "Why, Mrs. Harris, of course," and everyone agreed. Her caring, kind, and thoughtful presence were deeply felt by so many. Let us hold Harry and Susie, Natalie and Tyler in our hearts, and the whole Harris family. And may Pat's light and her legacy of faith burn brightly. And now let us turn to a responsive reading. The words will appear on the screen. We Need One Another by George Odell.
We need one another when we mourn and would be comforted.
We need one another when we are in trouble and afraid.
We need one another when we are in despair, in temptation, and need to be recalled to our best selves again.
We need one another when we would accomplish some great purpose and cannot do it alone.
We need one another in the hour of success, when we look for someone to share our triumphs.
We need one another in the hour of defeat, when with encouragement we might endure and stand again.
We need one another when we come to die and would have gentle hands prepare us for the journey.
All our lives we are in need, and others are in need of us. Today's offering will be split 50-50 between the fellowship and the Interfaith Food Pantry. During these weeks of social distancing and quarantine, we want to be sure to consolidate our giving to the organizations impacted the most. The Interfaith Food Pantry is running very low on food, and they need our help.
The time has come in our service for our weekly offering. All the information on how to give will be on your screen during the closing music at the end of the service, and is also always available on our website, muuf.org.
I had a dream last night. I dreamt that I was swimming in the stars up above, directionless and drifting, and somewhere in the dark, with the sirens and the thunder, and around me as I swam, the drifters who'd gone under. Time, love, time, love, time, love, time, love, time, love, time, love. It's only a change of time. I had a dream last night, and rusting far below me, battered holes and broken hardships, Leviathan and lonely. I was thirsty, so I drank, and though it was salt water, there was something about the way it tasted so familiar. Time, love, time, love, time, love. It's only a change of time, love, time, love, time, love. It's only a change of time. Black clouds I'm hanging, this anchor I'm dragging, the sails of my memory rip open in silence. We cut through the lowlands, all hands through the salt lands, white caps of memory, confusing and violent. I had a dream last night, and when I opened my eyes, your shoulder blade, your spine, were shorelines in the moonlight, new worlds for the weary, new lands for the living. I could make it if I tried. I closed my eyes and kept on swimming. Time, love, time, love, time, love. It's only a change of time, love, time, love, time, love. It's only a change of time, 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 love, time, love, time, love, time, love, time,
As of last night, over 11,000 people in our state have been diagnosed with COVID-19, and over 10 times as many have been diagnosed in the United States. Many more are awaiting test results or attempting to find out if they can qualify or if they can even find a place to get tested. Those who are experiencing symptoms range from no symptoms to mild ones to not feeling well to needing hospitalization or support with breathing, and even some symptoms leading to death. We are all present to a kind of liminal time, wondering just how great our losses will be, specifically the loss of some people's livelihoods, and, more importantly, the loss of the lives of people that we love. The president has expressed a desire to privilege money over people, and he has invited people to pack churches for Easter. I must tell you, as your minister, I privilege a different moral order, and I hope that you will stay away for the sake of your health and for the health of your neighbors, family, and friends. But don't you worry. We will bring the fellowship and Easter service to you wherever you are. For those of you that are finding yourself in a time of challenge or out of work, please reach out to our care team. We have some funds to assist you with necessities like food, electricity, or heat, and we can also point you in the direction of other sources of community help. In this week, while some of you have been waiting for or still await test results, a memory of a personal story of waiting comes to mind. As a new mother, I remember holding my 4-month-old on my lap in a corridor in Mount Sinai, waiting to see a specialist. I stared into my baby's perfectly imperfect, beautiful dark brown eyes with pupils of different sizes and thought to myself, it would be the cruelest joke that I, a cancer survivor, might now have a baby with cancer. This wasn't just the old question of why me. It felt like a new question. Why me again? You see, when my son's pediatrician looked into his eyes when he was only a couple months old, she remarked on the difference between the left and the right eye in the size of his pupils. She said that it was probably nothing, but we should see an ophthalmologist and also go for a special scan at the hospital. When we saw the ophthalmologist, she did a test on his eyes to check whether the difference between his left eye and right eye was merely a benign anomaly or something more serious. Both of these tests came back inconclusive. The ophthalmologist shared that doctors were trying to rule out the possibility of a tumor. Never something that a parent wants to hear, especially about their baby. She also shared that there was another test that would be more conclusive, but it involved drops with a small amount of cocaine, and it couldn't be procured in New Jersey. It was considered contraband. She sent me to a specialist in New York. It took a while to get that appointment. When we arrived, the doctor greeted us, took us into his office, read the charts, looked at the left and right eyes, and said, "I could do the same test that you already had, but it will most likely be inconclusive again as far as a possible tumor. We really need to do the test with the special eye drops, but we have an issue." It turned out that the hospital protocols hadn't anticipated a baby ever needing these eye drops with cocaine. They required the patient to sign documents and walk with the doctor to get the eye drops. And because of strict precautions with this particular controlled substance, a parent or guardian would not suffice. The specialist said, "I don't know whether I'll be able to get some today, but I'll try. You know, there's a little Italian restaurant around the corner. Why don't you enjoy lunch with your husband and then come back?" Enjoy lunch? While we're waiting to find out if our baby has cancer, I had already enjoyed a number of lunches over the last few weeks waiting to get in to see this specialist, and I wasn't sure that I could stand another moment of wait and see or be present to the gratitude and joy in this moment. I was worried. I was anxious. I wanted this liminal space that we were stuck in to end, and I also wanted everything to turn out okay. The lunch place was good enough, and we did our best to enjoy it. And then we returned to the hospital and waited to see the specialist. Waited for him to tell us whether or not we could even have the test that day. After another hour of waiting, he finally came back out. "I've got it!" he exclaimed. We took our baby into the exam room, and within minutes, the rush of relief, it was confirmed. He didn't have cancer. I finally felt like I could exhale. Being confronted with our own mortality, or the mortality of someone we love, is one of the greatest challenges that we face as human beings. On one hand, we know that to be human is mortal. Suffering is a part of life, and change is the only constant. That is part of the deal. On the other hand, it is human to want more time where we are well in body, mind, and spirit, and to crave certainty. Shouldn't that also be part of the deal? Theodicy is the word that we use in religious traditions to describe how we make meaning in light of the fact that we don't get to control how much good or bad happens, or even understand why they are meted out so unequally. Theodicy involves questions like, why do good things happen to people who behave badly? Or why do bad things happen to people who are loving, wise, and compassionate? Or the question I asked before, why me? Or why me again? There are some who assign a directional, active intelligence in the universe to all that happens. You may have heard people say, or some of you may believe, everything happens for a reason, or everything happens for a purpose. Just this week, I've heard some of my interfaith colleagues express their trust and hope that God is at work in all that is happening. To my faith understanding, everything doesn't happen for a reason in the sense of God guiding it to happen. Rather, we are the ones who create meaning and purpose after something happens. We are changed by the experiences, and then we face the world differently because of those changes. If I see God anywhere, I see it in the interactions of nurses and doctors and aides on the front lines, risking their lives in order to care for the health and well-being of the many. but I see that as them tapping into the divine spark that lives in all of us and that is greater than each of us. So God may be present, but I don't believe that he's choosing, or she, or any concept of a God choosing who will live and who will die. Sadly, babies do die. Not everyone will live to an old age. What I have learned by companioning people through grief is that every single solitary life leaves its mark on someone's heart, or many people's hearts. Others are changed because of that life and how it was expressed, how they were related, and the string of memories that add up to a life, and ultimately to a love beyond death. Parents at the graves of their children know this. Children at the graves of their parents or grandparents know this too. COVID-19 is a reminder that our time on earth is of great consequence, especially to those we love and care for and with whom we work and play. So while it is too early to say how we will be changed by this pandemic, I have faith that alongside the loss that accompanies a time like this, we will allow those losses to strengthen our hold on life. That those of us who do not die, which I remind you, as painful of a time as this may be, will be most of us. That we will not go back to life just as it was before. That we will take the learnings of this season of change to heart. May they include the knowledge that we can reduce our carbon footprint and travel more conscientiously. COVID-19 has in some ways achieved the kind of thing that the Paris Agreement was pointing towards. May the learnings of this time include our ability to find joy even in the midst of a sad day, and to discover that we can be so creative in the face of a challenging day. May the learnings include appreciation for those who follow the calling of a first responder and the healthcare givers who are risking and sacrificing for the health of the many. May the learnings invite us to work collectively for a healthcare system and an educational system that puts the needs of the many and the most vulnerable at their center. May the sobering and unifying experiences we are having teach us beyond a shadow of a doubt that our whole human family is intertwined. May they awaken in each of us a vision of a world shaped in the direction of what is holy, healing, and just, and the courage to co-create anew. Amen. Blessed be, and may it be so.
I invite you to join me and members of our choir in our closing song, Abide with Me.
Still with me.
Before we go, let me extend an invitation. You can join us at coffee hour over on Zoom, an opportunity to catch up and connect in small groups. Head over to our website for the link. And now for our closing words, written by Gilda Radner. I wanted a perfect ending. Now I've learned the hard way that some poems don't rhyme and some stories don't have a clear beginning, middle, and end. Life is about not knowing, having to change, taking the moment and making the best of it without knowing what's going to happen next. Delicious ambiguity.